As you know, Artha Forum has partnered with the BSE to host this evening's event, and I thus call upon none other than Mr. AshishKumar Chauhan, the very dynamic Managing Director and the CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange, to open this evening. And though none of our eminent speakers need any introduction, and they're iconic in their own fields, I just wish to share a few words of introduction for each speaker to welcome them. Mr. AshishKumar Chauhan is best known as the father of modern financial derivatives in India due to his work at the National Stock Exchange. He was instrumental in setting up India's first fully automated screen-based trading system and first commercial satellite communications network. He has also created several path-breaking frameworks, including Nifty Index, NSE certifications in financial markets, etc. He has won several national and international awards, including the CEO of the Year in 2015 in Hong Kong. Without further ado, I hand over the mic to Mr. AshishKumar Chauhan, who will open the topic Business with a Purpose, and specifically speak to us on the principle of creating happier employees. Thank you so much, Mr. Chauhan. Over to you.
His Holiness Rana Swami Maharaj, Shri Ajay Pilaman, Shri Praveen Pardesi, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this second edition of Artha Forum. The last year also, I think many of you participated here in the same venue. And as Mr. Srivastava pointed out, there are many events that Artha Forum does. I am delighted to be a participant here. The talk which I need to tell you is about how do you keep happier, or how to have happier employees. And first question that came to my mind is, can you make anyone happy? What is happiness? Unless we understand, it becomes very difficult to sort of go and figure out how do you create happiness. And the other question, once you start asking questions, then many more questions come to your mind. Said, what is happiness? And can you make anyone happy? But can you, if you can make somebody happy, can you keep the happiness? Or the happiness is sort of is ephemeral, it goes away faster. And so, can anyone become really happy? What are the ways to make people happy, if at all there is a way? And sometimes it is said that happiness is a state of mind. It comes from within. Especially in Buddhism, it is basically it's kind of part of the teachings that if you don't have desires, then that is the greatest sort of state of mind, because if you want to be happy, you will remain unhappy in a way because you have a desire. So if you have lack of desire, that is the best framework of mind. So other thing which came to my mind while I was sort of thinking about this is, a happiness for me may not be a happiness for you. And so just now we are going through the concept of demonetization, right? And many of us are happy because the other person's money is gone waste, right? And many of us are unhappy that our money is gone waste, and so on and so forth. So effectively, it is sometimes very difficult to figure out that what is happiness which is constant. Does it change from person to person? Does it change from time to time for the same person? So if you might be happy with a lollipop when you are a child, and when you grow up, probably you may not be so happy because you are diabetic like me. And so effectively, there are many situations in life which ensure that happiness is not something which is kind of you can hold on to for long, and it varies from time to time for the same person, also from time to time in person to person. The other thing which comes to my mind is that it also varies with age. Because of the way we are structured, the way the chemicals go around in our body, the hormones and whatever you call it, at age 15, happiness is, it comes out of different things, and age 55, it comes out of different things, and probably at 80, you are happy if you just, the body doesn't creak, right? So there are many situations in which you become happy because of variety of reasons. In a corporate world, we have many people who have thought about this, and there was a great person called Maslow. There was a Maslow's hierarchy that basically most people work initially for the basic amenities, that you get food, you get clothing, you get shelter, and that is what you try to work for. And then you go a little higher up and you kind of go in search of luxury. But at the highest level of the pyramid, you go in search of higher purpose. You ask, why am I here? Who am I? And that is what I call spirituality, that finally, even Western world has figured this, that we need to go something higher and higher. And finally, when you reach that, you search for a spiritual sort of process through which you try to get the happiness or try to attain the meaning of life. And there is, of course, physical happiness and spiritual happiness. Both can be, you can be really in physical trouble. There are many rishis and munis who I have met, and many of them have stayed without clothes in very cold conditions in Himalayas for years. And still they were happy in those days also. And when they come down to plains, they are still happy. So you can be in physically difficult conditions, but spiritually happy, and vice versa. You can be having huge amount of worldly pleasures, but spiritually or mentally you may not be that happy. So how do you figure that out in your organization? How do you inculcate happiness? And one of the biggest things I have seen is, if you can have people who can control their lives, who have kind of respect, who get respect for their work, they can control what they need to do, who have pride in their work, who have sense of achievement, then that person is happy, that organization is happy, that people surrounding that person are happy. So effectively, the responsibility and authority go hand in hand. If you have only people who take responsibility, I mean, you need to tell them that do this, do that, and if you don't give them authority, usually you don't get to see them happy in the long run. But if you tell them that, okay, we need to do this kind of activity, and what we need to do, and then you figure out, go ahead and do it, many people will take that bait and start running with it. And many of them run very, very fast and very happily. If you recall Charlie Chaplin's Modern Times, I don't know how many of you have seen, that person keeps on hammering on a nail every time on the assembly line. And that person is completely unhappy because he or she is not able to understand that they are making a car. But if you kind of get them involved in designing a car and making a car, that is going to be a much more happy life. So overall, for whatever experience I had, I have myself experienced, and also I see in my colleagues at BSE and other places, that if any individual has a control and a respect and authority, they end up doing their responsibility beyond what is there. Of course, exploitation is a part of life, and how you reduce the exploitation to even keep people generally on the what I call physical plane happy is also an important aspect of work culture. And how do you keep the balance? A work-life balance is an absolutely important part, and each employee of any organization needs to have some time for himself or herself, and also for the family in addition to the work. And today, with 24/7 mobiles in hand, it's very difficult to now figure out whether you're working or not. Because most times you go home, you are checking out on your mobile whether any mail has come or you need to reply. And it's not bad. I'm not trying to tell that you should not do that, because life is 24/7 and things happen 24/7 and you have responsibilities. But if you can create a framework of ensuring that everyone is still able to spend some time with their families, for themselves alone, and also with their colleagues in informal ways, probably you are going to be having a much happier organization going forward. The last part is that many of our people today are more exposed to many things. because of television, internet, and other things, and they have aspirations. And aspirations have no limit. And if you can basically create a framework to tell them how to be happy from within, it will create a great, happy sort of work culture. And I know one organization which starts the day with Vipassana, and basically, if you can have that kind of a framework in your organization, probably you will have a much larger or much more happiness than you would otherwise have. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope we enjoy today's evening. Thank you very much.
A very big thank you to our host, Mr. AshishKumar Chauhan, for those very enlightening words. And yes, it's true, our desires are limitless. And perhaps, as he said, that there are two ways of being happier. One is to have more, and truly the other is to desire less. Thank you so much, Mr. Chauhan.